This is the last sampling strategy we'll discuss. It's called cluster sampling. And in this particular approach, we are going to utilize something called clusters. So we're going to determine a cluster grouping. We'll randomly select clusters, and then we'll use all players in that cluster. Now, because we're talking about the NFL data still, what our data is comprised of are players, so we'll use all players that are in those clusters. So our clustering this time that we'll use is team. So here are all 32 teams in the NFL. Just a nice visual for you to have to see that there's 32 of them. And so team will be our cluster. Now, where randomness comes in this process is which clusters will be chosen. So each team has anywhere between, I would say, about 75 to 80 players on them. So we're going to randomly select 3 teams. That'll give us almost 250. And once we have those team names, we will then use all the players on the 3 randomly selected teams, or as we call them, clusters. So I'm going to use a little help from our random number generator. So what I have here, just so that our teams have a number associated. There's 32 teams, as you can see here, down to the Washington Commanders, up with starting with the Arizona Cardinals. It appears that they're in alphabetical order. So I want to go to a random number generator, and you can see I want to randomly generate numbers between 1 and 32. So I'm going to generate the first one. That is the number 24. So let me just kind of write that down here so I don't forget it. Go back. Let's do it again. 21. So it's completely at random, choosing a number, and then last one, 15. So those are the 3 clusters we'll use. Now let's check back at the StatCrunch file. Oops, just 21, 24, and 15. Alrighty. So here is 15, the Jacksonville Jaguars. 21 is the Minnesota Vikings. And 24 are the New York Giants. So those are the teams that are randomly selected here, and when we would go and attempt to interview all the players. So visually here, let's go back. So I heard that it was the Minnesota Vikings. That team here I'm circling. The New York Giants was one of them, and I forgot the other one. Oh, the Jacksonville Jaguars. If I find those guys, I believe that's these guys right here. So those would be my 3. So again, if all 32 of these are clusters, randomly select 3, and then we interview all the players on those teams. Now, why is this helpful to people doing surveys? Well, originally, we had a random sample of players, which was a great list of 250 players in my first video. But if you can imagine, you'd be having to call 32 different teams and get their team manager to administer the survey to certain players and then not other players. It's kind of a logistical feat to have that happen. It's easier if you believe that these clusters can be representative of the league to call 3 team managers, that is those for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Minnesota Vikings, and the New York Giants, and then have them administer the survey to all players on that team. It's a very much easier way to collect data from a logistical standpoint. So that's why often a cluster approach is taken with sampling.